Gentlemen, namaskar, and welcome to the 16th edition of the Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol, Banega Swasth India at the front Darbar Hall. We are delighted to introduce For Dreamers Who Read, with Bulbul Sharma, Kristin Roshifta, Sonia Mehta in conversation with Arvind Kalia. This is a vibrant session for young readers by a panel of outstanding children's and YA writers. Together with Arvind Kalia, they speak of why and how they write and the secrets of storytelling. First off, we have Bulbul Sharma, who is a painter and writer based in New Delhi. Her books for children include Fantastic Creatures from Indian Mythology, Dancing with Birds, and Between Heaven and Earth, co-edited by Ruskin Bond. Next, we have Kristin Roshifta, who is a Norwegian illustrator and picture book author. She has made 8 books exploring topics like queuing, crowds, and animals with body issues. Most of all, she is inspired by the differences and similarities between human beings. And she never gets tired of drawing people. Her latest book, Everybody Counts, contains 2,768 people and is translated into 40 languages. Next, we have Sonia Mehta, a children's book author whose body of work ranges from creating one of India's first dedicated children's newspaper sections to conceptualizing the Bournvita Quiz Contest for television, to writing books, songs, poems, and stories for publishers in India, Africa, USA, and the UK. She's authored books for publishers such as Puffin, Penguin Random House, Scholastic, Wonder House, and Pratham Books. She has also co-founded Podsquad, a company that creates learning tools for children. And lastly is Arvind Kalia, a renowned academician and published author. He is known for his lectures across universities, from Calgary to Rajasthan, on management mantras. His writings and interviews have been published in Knowledge at Wharton and many national and international publications. He is also a director at the Institute of Vedic Science and Research. We're looking forward to a fantastic session. Thank you.
Thank you, and I shall be moderating the session here, and welcome once again here on the dais here. Hearty welcome from College Foundation, which is a part of Patrika Group, and Rajasthan Patrika Group is one of the top 20 newspapers in the world as per World Association of Newspaper here. And this College Foundation, we develop, we promote, we research contents and the content creators here for the young and infinitely intelligent mind of the world here. This College Foundation has been doing its work in the 2 directions here. First is going to the ancient past and collecting pearls of wisdom so that they can be passed to the young generation here. And secondly, preparing the young generation for the modern challenges here. This modern world is too much tech-oriented here. I think these modern powerhouses will be needing more bots than human beings here. And here, our education system, especially of India, may not be, you can say, modern enough to face this challenge here. At this College Foundation, however, we believe that whatever bots, robots, laptops, AI-generated maybe softwares you are using, they are fit only to give answers. They cannot ask questions here. And that's why the Schoolish Foundation organized sessions of this content creator to prepare our young mind so that they can ask very intelligent questions which these bots cannot answer that. So in this series here, we have a very eminent, panel of authors here. And I start with, without wasting much time, with Bulbul Sharma here. So Bulbul, you have written books for children here, and you have gone into mythologies also. So I'm starting my first question here, the mythology that you have written a book on children's Ramayana here. At one place you have a modern world where you have many avatars on maybe on laptop, etc. of every person, and here you are talking about a real avatar of Lord Vishnu here. And now by writing this book, first this anomaly is here for this young mind, and what message you want to give to our young mind so that they can ask penetrative questions here, which these bots cannot say, ask here?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Wonderful to be here. And well, I write a lot of stories from mythology because Indian mythology is incredibly rich, like all ancient mythologies, for stories which deal with a lot of fantastic birds and animals. So that has really been my focus. So when I wrote the children's Ramayana, it was also looking at it. I mean, there were lots of children's Ramayana being published, but what I tried to look at it was the natural element, because in Ramayana there are beautiful descriptions of forests and birds and incredible. The river, the description of rivers is really amazing. So I highlighted that as well as the ancient story. And my most recent book, published by Penguin, is about fantastic creatures from Indian mythology. That I thought, I'd do a kind of Harry Potter and do a lot of fantastic creatures, which you can find in our mythology. So we are blessed to live in India, where we can all, as writers, they'll agree, you can just dip into any mythological tale and come up with some wonderful stories.
So, Bulbul, going further with this Ramayana here, you have depicted so many characters of Ramayana for children here. And what type of message, what type of thing that you want that the children should imbibe from your book here so that they are preparing themselves for a better world, sustainable world? Please.
Well, I don't know whether I'm qualified to give any kind of advice. I really am a storyteller, and I'd like children to just get involved in the storytelling aspect of it. And each child is unique, as you know, I'd like every human being is unique, will take something different from it. So I wouldn't like to preach or give advice, but I would just like to share what I know about the Ramayana, about the other mythological stories, and let the child pick up what they find interesting in that.
You have written books on on demons and say gods also, fable demons and the gods here, and you have simple short collected stories for each maybe selected demons and the gods here. What do you want to say for that book here?
Well, I love the demons in Indian mythology. Are very, very interesting. And they all, most of the demons are really not bad guys. They did something wrong in heaven and then they were cursed. We're very big on curses in Indian mythology, as everybody here who've read the epics will know. So each time a good guy was cursed, he'd have to come down to earth and live here and that was his punishment. So then he was a demon, and then some god would come and redeem him, and then he'd go back again. So I just found that fascinating, and I did a whole series of books on demons too.
Which demon you like most here in your story?
I actually like Ravan a lot. I'm a great, huge fan of Ravan. I've got a biography of Ravan sitting at home, which I've uh, asked various publishers to publish, but nobody seems to really want to do a book on Ravan. But I'm hoping one day I'll show why he did what he did and how he repented in the end. And it's a lovely story about him. He was a great king. He was a very knowledgeable, very gifted, and he was a great Vishnu Bhakt, Shiv Bhakt. But he went wrong because of his ego. So it's a great sense of, how your pride and your arrogance can get you down. So hopefully it'll be out.
One of last question here, like the one of your famous say quote here is love anyone, anytime, anywhere, and then later you'll feel that yes you did it. You'll feel grateful here. So can you elaborate upon this statement here for our young audience here?
Yeah, it's just that, kindness and generosity of spirit is so important now because children really have a tough time. I really wouldn't like to be a child now because there's so much pressure on them, especially in India. Get into college, get a job, everything, and the parents have very high expectations. In the Western world, children are more or less left alone to do what they want. But here, our parents, my generation, younger generation, you'll agree, they children have a lot of not just the immediate family, but the neighbors. Arey, kya karta hai ladka? Abhi tak isne itna lamba nahi hua. First, they'll have that. You know, about your, whether you're tall or short. There's a pressure on that. Then school mein, okay, he got only 95, but my neighbor's son got 98. What is he doing? You should really make an effort. So there's a lot of pressure on Indian children. So I really want them to have fun. And that's why I try to write with a kind of lightness of spirit to make them just enjoy our mythology, enjoy our culture.
Thank you. Hi, Christine. So you are here from Norway here, and Christine is an illustrator, humorist, and then she writes storybooks also, and then for the young mind here. And your book is everything counts here.
Everybody counts.
Everybody counts here. This is the book here. So can you tell us about this book, Everybody Counts Here? You are an illustrator, you sketch also.
Yes.
And what's the inspiration here? And what message it gives to the people here? Can you just elaborate upon that?
Yes, it's very fascinating to listen to you. Yeah, I'll show you. Can you? Yeah. It's fascinating to listen to you talk about how you find inspiration in mythology. And for this book, I'm very much, I'm not inspired by mythology, but from wonder in everyday life. So I find a lot of inspiration just looking at people around me wherever I go. And this book is, it's actually, it's Everybody Counts. It's the title is a pun. The counting, it is actually a counting book where you count, a counting book with numbers, but it's also a book about how everybody matters. So maybe you can open it. Yeah. So it starts with, can you see? Yeah. It's we start with 0 and we count people, and the people, we start just with one person, and then he's alone in his room, and it's very kind of private. And the groups get larger and larger. Here you have a family of 5 and 6 people in a lift. Every number is a group of people, and you can choose any of the people in the group and follow them and see what kind of groups they show up in, and that way you can learn something about their lives and understand a bit more of what they do, or why they do what they do. And of course, the groups get larger and larger. I'm just going to skip very much. And when I was a child, I loved counting books, but I was really annoyed that they stopped at 10 or 20. So I wanted to make one that went larger. So this is like 50, 100, 135, and then in the end here, it's, it's 200, 400, and 1,000.
Look at that. I think a round of applause.
And I'll show you the last page, which is the largest group of all, the whole world. And I'll read, if I may, I'll read the last page, the text. Which is 7.5 billion, but it's 8 now, so already it's 8. So I'll read 8 billion people on the same planet. Every single one of them has their own unique story. Everybody counts. One of them is you. Yeah. Thank you.
So you are the award winner of the Nordic Council also, and they say that your books are very poetic and humorist here. And she loves, and you love sketching also here. So first, let's look at the fact, like whenever you illustrate things here, so you make for the young mind things very, very poetic here. And then a little bit of humor is also there. So can you elaborate upon that here, like poetic and humor here?
It's a bit difficult to answer because I never think about humor when I work. I do what comes natural to me, and I suppose what I do is I'm trying to visualize my way of looking at the world, and then it's for the reader to decide whether it's funny or not. And sometimes people find something very funny that I haven't really thought about as funny at all. but I love how a book is co-created by the reader. And it's up to every single reader to find their own stories and their own way of reading a book. And it's also important to remember, I think, that children are no homogeneous group. They are as different as everybody else. So I think that children's books as well should be interpreted in as many ways as they are readers.
Okay. And now, she is a creative visualizer also, and then in one of the blog that you wrote, rather for the audience, she wrote here that she visited Denmark, and she was to visit their design museum, and it was just across the road here. But there was, for some stupid reason, she couldn't cross the road here because some half marathon was going on there, and these Danes were really love marathon here. And people were just jogging, running there and there, and she waited there for, I think, half an hour and over here. And ultimately, she sat down and started sketching those runners also here. So like this way, that when you are like creatively, say, spending your time there and sketching those runners here. So what inspires you to sketch here? It is for your personal intellectual delight. And through this sketch here, maybe you are trying to give some message here to the people, to the readers who are going to purchase your books. Can you elaborate upon that? I hope I am clear here.
I'm not sure what the question was. Sorry.
So what's the inspiration of your, say, when you sketch someone? And what things you want to communicate out of your sketching here.
Okay.
And this is just one instance which I picked from your blog here, that you were just waiting to cross the road and you couldn't cross it.
Well, yeah, that was an example of, I had a plan of doing something and it didn't turn out the way I wanted, but then I started drawing instead. I couldn't go to the museum, but I drew a lot of runners, and they actually ended up as a spread in this book. So in the end, I suppose it was more valuable than if I had gone to the museum, where I'd been many times before. But when I sketch people, my inspiration comes from thinking that you can imagine so much about the person just from the way you're standing or carrying something or wearing something. And I just love how many messages we are sending out just by being ourselves. So people in general really inspire me.
Okay. Now I'm coming to Sonia here. And Sonia believes in fun and education here, and she wants to fire, say, imagination of children here so that they start grabbing things here. So first, let's discuss about you fire the imagination through your, say, content creation, through your writing here, so that the kids are coming and they are lovingly and voraciously reading the book here, which is need of the hour also. So can you elaborate upon that? Maybe you can give some anecdote, some examples.
Yeah, of course. Hi, lovely to be here with all you guys. You know, what Arvind mentioned is the fact that I believe that getting children to enjoy books opens up a world of adventure for them. And, you know, when you think about it, like I was just talking, I've come here today to Jaipur, but yesterday I was in Prague. I was also in Amsterdam. I went to see St. Petersburg for a little while. All of it in one day. How did I do that? Because I was reading a spy thriller, which went all over the world. Now, have I been to St. Petersburg? I haven't. Have I been to Amsterdam? I have, but that's incidental. I was telling my friend Christian, who I've just met, that my new book is going to be based in Norway, and she's invited me to visit her because I need to see Norway before I write about it. But I want children here in India or anywhere who have never seen a fjord to know what life is like in a fjord. So what happens is that it opens up your mind's eye, your tisri aankh, which Bulbul you will identify with, which is that, you know, when you shut your eye and you read something and then you imagine it, your ability to imagine just manifests in a massive way. And I feel, again, through a personal example, after the lockdown got over, I went to the gym after really long. And I was told by my trainer that your muscles are not working at all because you haven't used them for I don't know how long. So I feel imagination is also a muscle. And if you don't keep that muscle alive, there's a good chance that children will go into rote learning, into just accepting what they are being told without questioning it. And which is why I feel that books play this enormous role, and because it allows children to one day be a unicorn, one day they can be a king, one day they can be a mermaid, one day they can live in the Himalayas, or they can go into mythology. So it's all in the mind, but it's driven by books, and which is where I feel that books play this enormous role of opening a lifetime of adventure, because then you don't need to go to Prague to experience Prague. You don't need to go to St. Petersburg to go to Petersburg. So that is what I meant by that.
Great. Fantastic, thank you. And now, you are using fun here. You have edutainment, your organization also, and you say that the fun and learning should be combined beautifully so that things are transmitted there. But sometimes some critics come and they say when the purpose is serious, the fun is not allowed. It results into frivolousness here. And I think education is a serious affair here. Okay, maybe something in the life is requiring tremendous serious things also. So this fun and frivolousness, what is the boundary where the fun is there, where the frivolousness is there? That is what is. And then the young mind can very well say that we are already having fun without the books here. They are already involved in their own digital avatars or maybe the gadgets here. Can you elaborate upon that?
Okay, so I think fun and learning are actually two sides of a coin. I'm having enormous fun just now, but I'm also learning a huge amount. And I think that all of us, whether we are children, adults, when we grow old, wherever we are in an airplane or we are at the Lit Fest or we are on a beach or wherever, we are actually always learning, is what I really do believe. It's not conscious, it's subconscious. So now what happens is that if a child is told, and this is one of the, it's not an easy bridge to cross, I admit that, because when you're doing algebra and you're cracking your brains on an equation which you completely lost in, it's hard for for a parent or a caregiver or a teacher to say that, no, actually you're having fun. Of course, you can't really force that. But the fact of the matter is that if they begin to enjoy their subject or enjoy what they are doing, there's a better chance that they will have fun. Now what happens is if you're having fun, you don't know that you're learning, right? So again, I'll give you an example of one of the books that's just come out, and as Christine said, I actually have it here. It's called The Sleepy Time Tales, and this is a series which has just come out for Penguin, Puffin. They are bedtime stories in which there is this little hint of learning in it. So for example, in this one of the stories is there is a circle, for very young children, who says, oh my God, it's so boring being a circle. Look at my friends, the triangle has got 3 sides and then the pentagon has got 5 sides, and I just go round and round and round, which is a bit like me. But just go round and round and I just have, no sides, and I'm so uninteresting. And so she gets to this magician and she says, make me a square. So he makes her a square. And then she wants to go from here to there and she drags herself and finds she can't move. Then she says, okay, I want to be a pentagon. So he makes her a pentagon and she goes up to a water slide and she just can't come down. After all of that, she says, actually, I think I'd rather be a circle. So now what happens is that you're laying a base for geometry. Now, if I tell children that, they'll run away from that book, right? But you're learning, it's pre-math. So it is actually you're learning shapes. This will go into dimensions. This will eventually go into geometry. But what you're also learning is that everybody has something. So the circle realizes at the end of it that the fact that she's round gives her a mobility which the others don't have. Yes, so you may have corners, but I have a circle. I can move, right? So there is a subliminal learning involved. There is a obvious learning that you learn what's a pentagon, you learn what's a triangle, etc. But there is a subliminal learning also. Now, what the child is doing is he or she is being read a sleepy time tale. But what are they taking away? They are not being told that you're learning just now, but they're learning while they're having fun, they're learning. So this is what I mean by that, and everything that I have done in our organization in Podsquad is been to do with giving children those tools or those books which make it fun to enjoy, but have that little bit of takeaway at the end of it.
Yes, very right here. And one thing is there, like we are storytelling things. Wonderful answer. Thank you for that. But it was just I'm playing a critic role here so that I can get more and more knowledge from the fountain of your mind here. That's why I'm saying it. Like storytelling is basically, sometimes people say that it's an indirect teaching. It means there is no value of direct teaching when you come straight and say, this is to be done. Fear is so fearful here. Fear is really very, you can say, not fruitful for our organization here. Only love and affection. Fear can be utilized in a, I think, constructive way also here. So I think the entire panel is open for this discussion here, that we are going indirectly, as if there is some ethically wrong being direct, that what I want from you, you should do that here. Like ethics should be eliminated from our dictionaries here, or just go indirect here. Maybe this may be the one question I'm throwing into the panel. So Sonia, you can start, and then I think all of you can join. Yeah, Christine, you want to say something, please?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I so much agree with you that it's so important that children find it fun and a joy to read. You really need that experience, of course, to start reading more and to become an avid reader as an adult. But also, I think maybe adults are a bit impatient sometimes. It's not as, we don't necessarily sense that we've learned something straight away. And I find that the best children's books for me and for my children have been the books that only really start when you finished reading it the first time. And then, of course, they want to read it again and again, and it keeps going on in your head. And maybe a year after, or a long time after, a kid can say, oh, I remember that book, or to use something from a book to explain what they're going through. And you may not know that you learned something until years later.
True, yeah.
I agree with that. Many years ago, I'm a bird watcher, and I used to take my children bird watching, and they were very bored. They were not really interested. And, oh God, not again. And now my son is 45, and he remembers the names of those birds, and he says, I don't want to remember them, but I do. And so I feel that you really don't know what, the child's mind is amazing. You really don't know. It's like a sponge. They're absorbing all kinds of things, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But very often, I think as a writer, especially writing for children, you have to keep trying. And somewhere in their makeup, that gem will be there. And many years later, it will just flower into something wonderful. And I have people coming up to me, because I've been writing for 20 years now, that, we read this bird book when we were 10, and we go bird watching now. So, it's very rewarding then that you've managed to do something, and like fun came into it, because, going outdoors, looking at nature is now no longer fun. And during COVID times, I learned that it was such an essential part to have the child have some kind of inner resources that they could look out. Being locked down, you're at home, you can't go anywhere, but you can look out of the window and appreciate something. And hopefully, that helped being a part of nature.
Yeah,
I think these are all really good points. And even what you were saying, that is it that you fear? I think your question also was that are you doing things out of fear, and how do you manage the discipline?
Yeah, fear is so, you can say, destructive here, if I use it carefully.
I feel that nothing should be done out of fear. I mean, but that's utopia. It would be wonderful if there could be no fear in the world. But let's focus on the children's space, because that's what we're talking about. And children particularly focus through reading. uh, when you love what you're doing, you're not going to fear it, right? But if, and this is on parents and on teachers to not do this, which is to say that you had better do this or else. So that or else, of course, it's a thin line between, maintaining discipline. You have to have some amount of discipline. The world is disciplined, right? The sun rises and it sets. There's not anarchy. I mean, it has to rise at a certain time. It has to set at a certain time. So there are those givens which we all know, which become intuitive in terms of discipline. But, I think like what you're saying that, Bulbul, your son has these memories of enjoying what he did, which is why it's there in him so many years later. So if we could bring in that sense of joy and discovery which children have, they naturally have it. It's adults who stop it. So I don't know how many young people there are over here and how many adults there are, but young people will become parents someday. So I would say that yes, don't scare them, don't stymie them, let them enjoy what they want to. And of course, they will eventually learn the algebra and geometry. How will they not? They will, and fortunately, our education policy is also now becoming far more liberal and allowing you to pursue subjects of your interest once you've done the basics, so that, you can enjoy what you're studying. And it never reaches that stage of, not liking what you do.
That's very wonderful.
Christine,
Thanks, yeah.
you're a painter, yeah, as well. So you might have experienced this, and I'm a painter too, that till age of 5, you must have seen this, children paint beautifully. They have they're not shy, they're totally confident, they know what colors they want to use, they will not ask you to interfere. Then after 5, something happens to them. Have you noticed that? And when they're 6, 7, they become shy, they become less confident because they want the teacher's approval or they want their parents' approval. So I think till the age of 5, we are just wonderful human beings. It's after 6 that life just becomes difficult.
It's very interesting that you're saying that, and a lot of adults that I meet who say that they can't draw, and they probably haven't drawn a line since they were 10. So I always try to encourage kids who like drawing to just continue, and not stop when everybody else seems to stop.
So, we still have around 15 minutes, and there is many important things to be discussed here with you, eminent authors for children here. Now we are going to the debate of past and future here. When we become too futuristic, past looks to us useless, medieval, nothing is there. And future, all these computers, bots, and the reality, and your own avatar are there here. So how do you make a balance here? Past is also needed sometimes so that we can predict the future also. And the future is also, yes, it is needed here because we are going to make life for us, nation, society, sustainable future here. So how to bring the balance between the past and future, and especially our ancient, say, past and then collection of the wisdom, if we are not going into the debate of whether they did happen or not, but still something is there. But it is not a loaded question here. You're free to answer this thing the way you want here.
So sorry, I didn't quite get it. How the past we should just deal with in storytelling, in writing.
The relevance of the past here.
Well, that's the fantastic thing about being a writer is that you can be anywhere, you can be everywhere, like you said, you can be in the past, and I do a creative writing workshop. But the first thing is that you can be in the future, you can be in the present, or you can be in the past. So I think writers have that freedom, and so do all creative people, actually, even painters, to deal with that aspect. And if you can get some interesting facts from the past, from mythology as I work with, and interest children of today, but not necessarily as a moral tale to say that this is great and you should be like that, just as a curious, just to, fire their imagination, because that's what they really need. And especially our education, I'm afraid, is very rigid. It doesn't really appreciate imagination too much. You have to keep to the syllabus. I was doing a workshop at a state school, in Himachal where I live. And every time I do a drawing class, the child would ask me, is it in our syllabus? Ye exam mein aayega? You know, so there was this kind of fear all the time that we don't want to move out, we don't want to be too imaginative. So I think if you escape into the past, you can be very imaginative and have a lot of fun.
Like every kid is like, it's to you, every kid is interested in its heritage. Even if you don't teach them, they do ask you, what is my heritage? And what I'm going to get out of that. Okay, so what 3 most important things that you would like to?
You know, I think that this context, the concept of past relating to the future, it is important because everybody exists in a context. You know, a book is in a context. We all exist in a context. We are here at the Jaipur Lit Fest. We are as authors, as readers, as, you know, there is a context to what we do. So I think an understanding of mankind's past, which is why books like Sapiens are doing so well, because it is putting everything in a context for people, you know, and there is no doubt that there is a natural curiosity in mankind to know where he's come from and where he's going. Which is why we are such a you know, spiritual country, because we want to know. Mankind is spiritual, really. If he sheds some of his material, what do you call it, bondages. But the thing is that this question is very strong in everybody's mind, and in children's mind, it's probably simpler till they grow older and they want to know a little bit more. I think they should be encouraged to know. Because it's not just my heritage, as in I'm from Goa and my great-grandfather fought for the Portuguese, fought against the Portuguese. That part, that is one. But as mankind, you know, what are the lessons we have to learn from history?
Yes,
What has man gone through? Today there's climate change. Sometimes I think that when the ice melted, the ice age happened, mankind was not doing such a bad problem that time. So it still happened. So what do we learn from it?
Yes.
You know, so there is a context in which we all exist. And when children ask these questions, like for example, you know, Bulbul, because we create a lot of books for education and for education publishers in the company, what we've been also seeing is that the schools are moving from instructor-led to inquiry-led, which is a wonderful move.
That's great, yeah.
You know, so it's not just that the teacher is saying that you learn this. Of course, there's a syllabus. Of course, you have to do it. There has to be a structure within which you exist. But it is also driven by the children asking why. I have a granddaughter who asks me, I say, sit in the back seat. Why? Wear a seatbelt, but why? So, you know, it's good, no? I mean, it's good that she asks these questions. So I should not be saying, don't ask why. I should be saying, ask and try and answer. At some point, I'll give up, but at least that question is there. So I think it's good. We should encourage children to ask these questions. If we don't know the answer, the great big internet is there to help us.
Thank you, thank you. Now we are like hardly 10, 12 minutes are here. So we would like to devote something on your future projects here. What future projects you are having right now, all 3 of you. And then we shall open for 5 minutes a question from the audience also to these eminent authors here. So Kristen, what's your future project?
Yes, I am, I'm just about to finish a new book which is going to be a sequel to this one, and which ties in well with what you've just spoken about, because in the next book, the planet is going to play a larger role, and of course, there's so many things we can do with books for the future, I think, but what I'm attempting with that book is to make children excited about the diversity of the world, because I believe that if you're curious about the world and you're excited about it, if you learn, the more you learn, the more you connect with the world, and the more you love it, and the more you're likely to want to make right choices for the future. So that's my next project.
Okay, what's Bulbul? What's your future project?
Well, I'm doing a series of books for children who are just learning how to read and write. So a lot of picture books, again, about to do with nature. And I'm also trying to put together an anthology of nature writers, because suddenly Indian publishing has become, for children, has become very exciting. And as you know, Sonia, there are lots of books. When I was growing up, we only had imported books. We could only read Enid Blyton, and a few other things. And all the Indian books were moral science. You know, you read a book about this boy who was always a boy, very naughty, and he got run over by a bus or something. So you used to read these books and shudder and say, oh my God, you know, only in India children have such a bad time. But now all that has changed, and they're wonderful children's books. All publishers are quite happily encouraging young writers. So I'm putting together an anthology of nature writing. And also for young adults, I want to encourage them to write and bring out an anthology of their writing.
Sonia?
Okay, that's a very loaded question because I've got about 1,000 ideas in my mind and more getting in there every day. But I've got 3 books which are coming out, which are an extension of the books that I'm doing just now. And that is to the one that I mentioned earlier, because you're taking children around the world through geography. So they learn about the savannas, they learn about the fjords, they learn all through stories. Another one, which is my favorite, which is enjoying the English language for children through a character who has really hilarious situations, because she and her friends have all these goof-ups. Through that you learn English. So this is a series that's coming out soon, which I'm working on just now.
I'm glad there's humor, because that was lacking in Indian children's books. The humor was really very suspect. So now it's all changed. And lots of books which are very amusing and very entertaining.
So now, we make it open to the audience here, and we have lots of hands here. So I think the person who can, yes, he can ask question, then she can ask question, and then third hand is also there. 3, 4 hands are there. So we start from the first row, and then we can ask question. Okay, little one is also there. Okay.
So you mentioned how books and literature as children can affect us later on in life. So what were those books that really affected you during your formative experiences as children that affect you now?
Well, that's a lovely question. I read Alice in Wonderland all the time, and I think it's really shaped me as a human being, because I'm slightly odd, and I think in very odd ways, and I feel it's because of Alice in Wonderland that I can imagine many more than my siblings could.
So like in the first row, we have a youngest person here. I think.
Hello. So I'm actually an author. I've written 2 books. Age 12. I would like to ask, my new passion over the lockdown has become history. So how could I somehow interpret that into my stories and turn it into something humorous, maybe something even educational for the children, and maybe even the adults that I aim to make my viewers read about?
Oh, congratulations. I mean, that's amazing that you are already an author.
How old are you? How old are you? I'm feeling very threatened. How old are you? Oh
12
my
years.
God, 12.
You know, if you want to write about history, you're very lucky, because the world has got immense material for you. So once you've researched it, you can write sub-stories, I feel. You know, so if you're writing about Alexander, for example, everybody knows who he conquered. But did you know he has a horse called Bucephalus? And did you know what he went through with that horse? So you can have little sub-stories which become interesting for children and give a context as well, is what I would feel.
Yes.
Hello. So I have a twofold question. Normally, all children books have a moral, which is not really obvious, but you gain something out of it. So when you start writing, you think of what the moral is going to be, or does it just play out in the story as you go along? And the second slightly hilarious question is, do you get a child to proofread after you write a children's book?
Well, that's a very good question. I do get my children, when they were children, to read, and I'd get such terrible criticism that I couldn't handle it, so I stopped giving it to them. I gave it to my editor. I thought it was safer. And moral, I've never written a story with any moral in it. It's always, I just feel very, very against any moral story. So it's information, like I'd share some knowledge, but not a moral.
Now you have a question, please
Yes,
ask.
thank you for the opportunity. And it was very informative and entertaining to listen to all of you. And even though you three are all children's authors, I am currently writing a young adult novel series, and yet I could connect with all three of you. The fact that I am inspired from mythology, and I also illustrate a lot about all my novels, and for all my novels, and I also value imagination a lot. From a very young age, I have prided myself on my imagination. So essentially, I'm just asking, I know it's not your domain, you write children's books, but do you have any tips for budding authors everywhere to, write better, to write more informative, make it more entertaining, make it more funny, make it more connected to where we come from?
Kirsten, you want to answer?
Um,
There
I'm
is a
not,
little girl there. Is it little
I'm not
girl?
sure
You
if
can-
I'm the right person here to answer that, but the main thing I think is to really just keep on writing a lot, and also it seems I'm sure you love what you're doing, and be aware that that is a huge asset to love something, because you can work hard without it feeling like hard work. And the more you work, the better it will be. And then the more you will love it. So I wish you good luck and hope you'll keep on writing.
So maybe this is the last question here. We have just 4 minutes left, so you can ask.
I'm writing a children's book. Can you give me some advice for it, please?
That's a lovely question, because all of us, I would actually take some advice from you on the next book that I'm writing, quite honestly. But if you're writing a book, the most important thing is, who are you writing it about? So think about the person, make that person somebody you love and your readers will love. Give him a story, give him or her a story, something that's going to happen to him or to her, and then that that character will write the rest of the book.
There are still some curious hands are here. So can I take permission? Like 2 minutes are here. So can you give that, you want to ask questions? Like just one minute each. There are 2 people, one this row, and then. We have just 3 minutes. You quickly ask, then you give it to her. Yeah.
Good afternoon to all. It was a pleasure listening to the panel here, talking about children's book literature. So my question is for the illustrators here. What do you think is how the wordless picture book play role? There are books, of course, with the text that speak what the author wants to say, but how do wordless picture books speak out and share the message which you want to give?
Should I answer? Well, it's very difficult to do, because texts make it easier, because you can write like 4 lines and then do a small drawing. But if you're doing books without any text, then your drawing has to be really very, very, very expressive and totally speak to the child.
We see, so I run a children's library in Jaipur by the name of House of Books and Tales, and I see there are less picture books that connect. We need more, so maybe about the birds.
Yes, but it's happening now. Like I said, children's publishing is doing very well.
It has
now.
become very exciting.
Like if you remember The Hungry Caterpillar,
Yes.
has no words, but everybody remembers. I'm sure all you guys remember the illustrations. So hopefully something like that will happen here.
Thank you.
So we have a 1.5 minutes only. So
That lady, I think, is very...
she is also here. I think we can meet after this session also. Yeah, please ask.
Hello, my name is Napakshi, and first of all, I'd like to thank Rajasthan Patrika and the Village Foundation for this wonderful initiative. And my question is about the author's lookup over elders' education, the parents' education that supports a kid's mind and which helps them to develop their mind. Thank you.
Good question. You can pass on this thing to last one also. Please answer here. The parents' education. You should educate parents.
You're saying, are there any books that help educate the parents? I'm sure there are, and 100% there are. There are books, there are online courses that you can do. There's a lot of information out there which will help in parenting for sure. And I'm sure it's very useful. In my generation, parenting was intuitive. it just happened. Nobody advised you, you just did it, you did it right or you did it wrong. But today there's a excess of information. There's an enormous amount of information. You just have to look. Whether there are books, of course, and there's a lot of online info as well, I'm sure. Yeah.
In my village, they say Google Mata.
You have 20 seconds.
Yeah, so a very
I think, I think we meet just off the dais here. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone.
And with that, we would like to thank Bulbul Sharma, Kristen Roshifta, Sonia Mehta, and Arvind Kalia for this lovely and moving session. And we also thank Rajasthan Patrika for their support.
There